How's it going, everybody? It is your favorite apostates. I'm McKay.
I'm Jordan.
And we have some breaking news. We are filming this very late, much later than we've ever filmed ever before, but for good reason.
For bittersweet reason, we'll say. If you are new to this channel, because this is very popular information, if you're new here, our channel has covered 8 passengers, Ruby and Jodi, Kevin, the likes of them for a long time now. Mm-hmm. We have a plethora of videos on them if you want some background on who they are, how Mormonism plays into this, all of those things. Like, we have plenty of videos to get you caught up on if you are new, but
we can link them.
We will link them. I created a playlist, so they're all in one place. McKay and I have been doing this for how long now?
2.5 years.
2.5 years. Yeah. We've been talking about 8 passengers on our channel and on other people's channels for a while now. So this is information that has come out that was not anything that I ever thought would happen.
No.
So
to be clear, it is exactly what we thought would happen. Not in this manner, but we've been saying for a while now that somebody is going to get hurt and it's going to be a bad thing.
Let me clarify. We wanted the justice piece of this, the children being taken care of piece of this to happen, but it's extremely unfortunate that the situation that we're in right now is what had to have happened to get there. So let's just jump right into it. So biggest thing, this broke August 30th, which you're watching this probably the 31st if you're the first ones watching this. August 30th, I was in my usual Reddit and a notification from the 8 passenger snark subreddit popped up with Franke arrest information. So this post was made in the 8 passenger snark subreddit and it was verified by moderators. So whoever came forth with this information gave enough evidence to the moderators of the subreddit to affirm it, validate it, and be able to post it so it wasn't misinformation, essentially. So here's what the post has said, and you will see it on your screen. So an insider who does not wish to be identified has come forward with information. We have verified that they were in fact present at the scene but cannot provide further details in order to respect their privacy. Here's what they are comfortable with sharing. Please note that some of the contents may be emotional/disturbing as child abuse and neglect is insinuated. 20 plus officers responded at the scene with representatives from federal, state, and local levels. Kevin and Ruby were arrested separately. Ruby has been spending much of her time at Jodi's residence in a different city. We already knew that. There are reports of child malnourishment. The 2 youngest Franke children were seen by paramedics. All of the children are now getting the care that they need. So this post came 3 hours ago. Again, was verified by the moderators. I'm not going to speculate on the identity of whoever this person was. If you lived in their neighborhood, you would be very aware of what was going on.
Yeah.
If there is 20 plus law enforcement officers outside of one residence, there's a good chance that...
We're talking about white neighborhoods. You know, the Facebook groups were lighting up.
Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. And people know who they are. And as we've seen in what we talked about in our videos and the evidence from the channel and things, we know that Ruby does spend presumably a decent amount of time away from their Springville home, which is where the incident initially took place, was the Springville home that Kevin and... I almost said Jodi. And you'll notice that I swap them all the time if you're new here because they all just blend together in my head. Additionally, something that just kind of sealed it for me on this being legit was there was also a post made on Shari Franke, which is the eldest 8 passengers' daughter, who is, from what we understand up to this point, no contact with the majority of her primary family. So that includes her mom, her dad, all of her siblings, and she's still connected with the majority of, if not all, of Ruby's extended family, which is also really prevalent in the Mormon bloggerverse. All of the kind of Griffiths fam is in blogging. So that's Bonnie Holing, that's Ellie and Jared. she's all like, Shari's still very connected with them, and this is kind of played out behind the scenes, and if you kind of know what's going on, then you pick up subtle cues here and there. But both Shari and Ruby is completely disconnected from that family. And so Shari posted this image on her Instagram account. There's nothing identifiable location wise in this. So we're not doxing anybody. There's not any identifiable things here. And so if you are listening, if you're a podcast listener, the caption on the photo says "finally," which is like, damn girl. Like,
she's
pull
been
no
waiting
punches.
for this. Yeah.
Pull no
But
punches.
I'm imagining this isn't like, wow, finally they're hauling my mom off to jail. It's more the protection of her siblings. I am guessing.
And some inner validation of like, thank God people are going to be able to see it now. And it's not just me, and I'm not being made out to be the bad daughter that, you know, doesn't have a relationship with her mom. Like, everybody can clearly see what's happening now. And so I don't wish this situation on anybody. Like I said, we wanted something to happen in this case because we were worried about what could be happening behind the scenes. But my heart goes out to Shari for having to be in a position where she's rooting for law enforcement to intervene with her mother and her siblings.
Nobody
like,
wants that.
How freaking awful is that? So that came about, affirmed the post. Additionally, I mean, it's outside of their Springville home from what we can tell, and whoever took the photo is standing in front of a police SUV and an officer holding a rather large gun. So this kind of corroborates the previously shared post from the subreddit that there were a lot of law enforcement officers, and not just, even from this image, like, not just like cops standing around hanging out. Like, this dude has like a giant ass gun and is just standing outside the property. Okay, I don't care what your opinions are on police. This is not a normal, generally 20 law enforcement officers responding to a scene like this. That's just like a run of the mill call. Not a typical thing. Also, other background that'll give, I'm a social worker. So this is also my realm. So I can give limited input here, knowing that I'm not involved in this situation, nor am I an advisor or somebody who can speak on this situation as somebody who's professionally involved. But we'll get back to that in a moment. So we didn't have any information other than that. Going in.
Yeah, you had picked up on that post like 30 minutes after it had been posted.
So I started searching inmate bookings. Like, I'm looking, this isn't the first time we've had go-arounds with these types of situations, unfortunately. And so I started searching for bookings. They don't usually update them. Like, usually they don't update bookings. Most jails don't until 24 hours. And so usually they only update bookings once a day. So I did not plan on hearing anything about any of, like, Ruby or Kevin at all till at least tomorrow. And then some smart person went on the Washington County Sheriff's Office website, which Washington County is where Jodi's home is located, and was able to confirm, and we will throw the image up on the screen, was able to confirm the arrest of not Kevin and Ruby, but Ruby Franke and Jodi Hildebrandt. So
quite literally Ruby's new partner in crime.
Literally partners in crime.
Literally. No.
I cannot. We're not going to take joy in this situation because it's absolutely awful what's happening and what has caused all of this to happen and how shitty Ruby and Kevin and Jodi are. But it did quite delight me to see Jodi being held accountable and Ruby being held accountable for one thing in their goddamn lives. Yes. And as a social worker, Jodi can kiss her license goodbye. Goodbye.
Adios.
That shit was already on probation once and she got it back, but consider it done.
Terminated.
You cannot, and I don't know what Utah law states specifically, I'll have to look, but generally, like, domestic violence related, child abuse related, and social work and counseling professions generally don't go together.
Yeah.
Generally not. So, and she's not currently practicing with her license as far as we know, but she can go ahead and kiss that shit goodbye anyway.
Yeah.
So they were arrested by the agency that's listed on here is the Santa Clara Ivins Public Safety Department, but this is the Washington County Sheriff's Office website. But they have both been, according to the website, charged with 2 counts of aggravated child abuse with the stipulation of intentionally or knowingly. So, again, I'm a social worker. I'm fairly familiar with Utah law in these areas. Aggravated child abuse is a specific charge, but aggravated, like intentionally, holds more weight.
Yes.
We're not necessarily talking negligence here, per se.
The difference between intentional and negligible is the difference between felony level and misdemeanor.
In some cases. I'm not a lawyer. So
as far as we're saying,
law is not my area, but I am familiar with it as a social worker. So this code specifically, I am semi-familiar with Utah criminal code, okay? But I wanted to pull it up specifically so you can see exactly what we're talking about with aggravated child abuse, because this is different than just a general child abuse charge. So this is reflected in the charges that are listed on the booking website. So these are the things that they have been listed with on the website as why they're there in the first place. And so we have 765109.2. So we have the child, and then we have the actor in this case, which is Jodi and Ruby, who have either inflicted upon a child serious physical injury or having the care or custody of such child causes or permits another person to inflict serious physical injury upon a child. So in both of these cases, we're talking about physical injury. And I'll stipulate that more in a second. But the violation that they've put here with this is that it is intentionally or knowingly. And in that case, it's a violation of subsection 2, which is a second-degree felony, if done intentionally or knowingly. And that's the difference here between other charges versus if things were reckless or negligible or, criminal negligence is, I think, the term that they use. Like, that stipulation is important for that reason. And it's also just fucking awful.
Yeah. It's also... like we've talked about all the kinds of just garbage that these two believe, like wholeheartedly believe, which is very evident now, and how the messaging, you can see right through to things that are coming down the pike that are bad. And we were saying this is going to get somebody hurt.
Yep.
Or worse. And
Ruby's never been quiet about
it. It's just like it was right there. They're all about saving our kids and things like that. And voila, yet again, another instance where people who are just obsessed with saving the children are the people who the children need to be saved from. And
this isn't new. Like, if you're new to the 8 Passengers fandom, like, you've got a lot to catch up on because there's a hell of a lot going on here. And nobody should be fans or stans of them anymore.
I was going to say fandom.
But there still is. Even the subreddit sometimes gets a little too close to comfort for me. But Ruby hasn't always, like, she's never been quiet about it. Like, one of the biggest reasons she went viral poorly for the first time was because her 6-year-old forgot to take lunch to school. And then she made a whole video on, the teacher called her and said, "Hey, can you bring her lunch?" And she said, "No. Consequences of her actions." She's like a fucking kindergartner. So Ruby's never been quiet about these things. And then she sent her oldest son of the group to a really sketchy, like, reform behavior wilderness camp. And she took his bed away for a while and, made him sleep on a beanbag for months at a time. Like,
as a punishment.
So Ruby is just a horrible parent all around. And just all around. But this is a special kind of disgusting.
Yep.
And 2 counts. Again, I'm not familiar with Utah law, like, extensively. So 2 counts, I would imagine, could either be 2 counts of the instance or a count per a child. I'm not sure. But both Ruby and Jodi were charged with 2. Like, on the booking, they're listed with 2 of those charges.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's in reference to instances or kids individuals, but so if we're talking about, and McKay's going to put this on the screen so you guys can read what I'm reading. If we're talking about what it says here within the Utah Criminal Code, we're talking about aggravated child abuse, and up here we have inflicts upon a child serious physical injury. So that's an important thing to be able to define, because what is serious physical injury? So if we go to this other part of the Utah Criminal Code within child abuse, and we're talking about serious physical injury, we have physical injury on top, and then we have serious physical injury on the bottom. There is a list of things for serious physical injury that I won't read all of these in depth, but it is vast. There is a lot of things. Baseline, we're talking about serious physical injury under Utah Criminal Code seriously impairs the child's health, involves physical torture, causes serious emotional harm to the child, or involves a substantial risk of death to the child. That's one subset of this. And then it gives more specific things, and I'm not going to read them off to you, but McKay will put them on the screen, like actual medical things happening here. Like, we're talking pretty severe. And if I can't remember where I read it. I don't know if starvation falls under here. Oh yeah. So at the bottom here, it says any conduct that results in starvation or failure to thrive or malnutrition that jeopardizes the child's life. So that's an important thing here, especially given with what we've talked about with the Eve thing. Now, does that situation say that Ruby was starving Eve at that time? No. But is it still not okay behavior from my personal opinion? Yes. So starvation does fall under this factor. And malnutrition was one of the things alleged in the initial Reddit post, that there was potentially malnutrition going on here. So serious physical injury as part of aggravated child abuse includes starvation. So if that's what was happening, that would fall under this category, and it wouldn't necessarily need to be something like physical wounding or like physical abuse or torture. That's the vast category with which we're dealing with here, because we don't have all that information right now, but I think it's important to bring this up because this is severe.
Yeah.
Like starvation and then serious physical injury and harm is not your average, like as a person who dealt with this in the realm of social work. It's not your, let's say, average CPS case. Okay. Like it's not the usual. This is the very more on the severe end of the spectrum. Yeah. And are there things worse than this? Of course, absolutely. But the reason I wanted to bring this up is so we understand what they're being charged with. Again, they haven't even gone through the process yet. They've only been booked and charged. We have no lawyers, no process has happened up to this point. So, for those of you that live in the US, everybody's innocent until proven guilty by court of law. So the other unfortunate thing about this is Utah recently passed a law that does not allow mugshots to be posted for people who have not been convicted, is my understanding. Mm-hmm. You can, if you're charged, your mugshot doesn't get posted. If you're convicted, that's my understanding. Right?
Oh, I'm not sure, but
it's House Bill 288. If I can find it, I'll have McKay put it up on the screen. But it's new, and so it was
really long. I won't be able to put it up on the screen, but
no mugshots, unfortunately, for right now. So that's why there aren't any. Otherwise, I would be reveling in that because they deserve to be shamed for what they've done.
We're gonna put Jodi's mugshot on a fucking t-shirt.
And then let me pull up for you the other piece of this that I want to bring up. We don't know what happened to Kevin. According to the Reddit post that was made, both Kevin and Ruby were present at the time that the police were at the Springville home, and that they were both supposedly arrested, and they could have just been detained. And that's sort of seeming to be what it's coming to now that we've got the news article out. But Jodi and Ruby were booked in St. George, which is way down south of Utah, which is almost 4 hours away from Springville, which is where the original police incident began, at their house when all the police showed up. And so if Kevin was arrested there and Jodi and Ruby were arrested later on down the line in St. George, they would be booked in 2 different counties, meaning that their booking would not be in line with each other. Like, Kevin could have been arrested, but we don't have updated booking info for the jail that he would potentially be in Utah County. Because Washington County is just apparently on top of their shit. So... So he could also be arrested.
All the old white people that live there, they just,
I guess,
got nothing better to do.
I guess. We don't say that, like, jokingly. St. George is one of the whitest cities in the nation, actually.
Yes.
So we don't know on Kevin yet. Could stuff come out today or tomorrow that he was actually arrested? Wouldn't be surprised. He is involved in this in some way. And if Jodi and Ruby are being arrested for this shit, I don't see any circumstances in my mind where Kevin wouldn't at least be complicit.
Yeah.
Like, I just don't see it.
He's also the parent. And they are separated, but I don't know that they are legally separated or anything.
I don't know. Yeah.
So
the rumors when all of this began was that Ruby kept the younger kids. Shari had already gone off to college, and Kevin and Chad, the oldest son, went their separate ways, and all the younger kids stayed with Ruby. So Kevin, by that information that we have, wasn't potentially even involved with the younger children up to a certain point. Like, there's so much information here that we don't know. But Kevin is not off the hook for me, in my mind, at all. Even if he doesn't get arrested, I don't care. There's some shit here that's just not okay with me. If you're okay with the mother of your children whisking them away to be with some individual who is manipulative and horrible and quite literally abusive, like, you're still a parent.
Yeah.
You're still a parent. So the confusion kind of stems from the way that this was reported. There were some confusion because there were girls in the area where they live in Utah County, unrelated to the family, that went missing. So there was some confusion because then apparently people had linked that they might be Frankies, which turned out to not be the case. They were unrelated, from what I know.
I saw that in the news feed.
So that was like confusion happening there. But as far as I know, that's not where this originated. So the news article has been updated like 30 times since I've initially read it. It originally said parents, 8 passengers' parents arrested, and that was removed. Kevin was taken out completely, other than one reference, and it only includes Jodi and Ruby now. So let me read you this. The headline at this time is 8 passengers' mother arrested for 2 counts of aggravated child abuse. And then here is the article itself. 8 passengers' mother, Ruby Franke, and founder Jodi Hildebrandt of the parent counseling service Connexions. Is that what they're calling it? Parent counseling service?
That's ridiculous.
Were arrested Wednesday night for 2 counts of aggravated child abuse. The Washington County Sheriff's Office confirmed that they had been placed in custody for intentionally and knowingly committing aggravated child abuse at 9:33 p.m. That is Wednesday, August 30th. Earlier Wednesday, the Springville, which is where Kevin and Ruby's home is, the Springville Fire Department responded to a mutual aid incident at Hildebrandt's residence in Springville at 3:44 p.m. for nearly 2 hours. They recently changed that and added Hildebrandt's residence. Jodi doesn't have a house in Springville.
Fox 13 is fucking up.
Fox 13 is having a hard time, and I don't blame them because this shit is complex, but Jodi doesn't live in Springville or have a house in Springville, as far as I know.
That's the Frankie, and
she lives down south.
The house that
right,
that Shari was in front of, which is definitely their neighborhood. Okay,
so Fox 13's struggling a little bit, and I don't blame them because this shit's complex, and we're only versed in it because we've been doing it for a long time. So we'll give them slack. But so a mutual aid incident, Springville Fire Department. So fire department is requested. It's an interesting thing. For mutual aid is usually like multiple agencies being called, but if the fire department was initially called, my gut instinct goes to EMS. So like somebody made a phone call needing emergency medical services, like that's where my brain goes. So earlier Wednesday, fire department responds to Ruby and Kevin's residence in Springville at 3:44 p.m. for nearly 2 hours. So apparently the 20 plus cops that were there with their guns hanging out for 2 hours. It's not yet known if that incident is related to Ruby and Jodi's arrest 6 hours later. So yes, you're tracking with me now, right? So fire department gets called to the Springville house at 3:44 for nearly 2 hours. Not sure what's going on during that time. Apparently, according to the poster, both Ruby and Kevin were separated and arrested. So I'm thinking detained, right? Mm-hmm. And then nothing happens that's reported. We don't know what happens to Kevin.
He just dips.
Not sure what happened there, but Ruby and Jodi weren't arrested until 9-ish later that night. Springville and where Jodi lives are about 4 hours away. So Ruby got in her car and drove down to Jodi's house in between and then got arrested in Jodi's county after this incident in Springville.
Sus.
Weird. Okay. So there isn't any other information here added other than they describe like who they are and things, but there was a news article that came out, or a news video that I can't share with you for copyright purposes. So here's a transcript of the video. So Springville police, right? Kevin and Ruby's house, tell Fox 13 News an incident that started in the St. George area this afternoon, where Jodi lives, had them checking on 2 children of local YouTube stars Ruby and Kevin Franke from the popular 8 Passengers YouTube channel. Now, the incident in St. George led them to try and find 2 children in the Springville area where the mother Ruby lives. They say Ruby was on her way to St. George because of a family emergency and asked a family friend to pick up 2 of her 6 children. St. George police have confirmed with Fox 13 that the Santa Clara Ivins Police Department is handling the case in southern Utah. The 2 daughters were found unharmed at home in American Fork. We are working to find out what happened in St. George that initially alarmed police, and if any charges have continued to be made, we will follow this. So this adds so much confusion.
Seriously.
To this.
Especially because American Fork is not very close to Springville.
No.
It's like 30 minutes if you drive fast.
And then there's the interception of Ruby had a family emergency and sent a friend to pick up the kids. Can't imagine Ruby has a lot of friends. If I were to just say. So, like, but the incident started in St. George. But if the incident started in St. George, then why was their gut instinct to go to Springville?
I don't know.
This is so complicated and complex, okay? We don't know so many things, and I know that. And by the time you watch this, like 30 things will probably have come out, and you guys are going to comment and tell us that we're wrong on like 10 different things because things have developed, and that's okay. But we wanted to put out there what's out there right now, and basically that's kind of the gist of everything that we know at this point. Apparently, Bonnie, which is of the Mormon vlogger universe, Ruby's sister, posted an emotional video yesterday, like being super indirect and I guess like doing a lot of driving. And so there's talk in the subreddit of whether or not people were aware that something was happening and things were brewing, and then things kind of took place today. So again, there's a lot of information that we don't know. We can speculate all day long, and I'll happily speculate with the caveat that we are speculating. But this is the nightmare we wanted to not be true.
Yeah.
I mean, I knew Ruby was a shitty parent, but I didn't want to believe that it was something that she was doing that she could literally be charged with aggravated child abuse.
Yeah. I mean, arguably stuff in the past has been...
Oh, awful.
Crime-worthy.
And this isn't the only time that CPS... I mean, obviously, if there's children involved in a law enforcement situation, almost always CPS or DCFS is going to be involved. Regardless of what the situation is, if it is a more complex law enforcement situation. And so could this, like, if this is federal level, like if there are truly federal people involved in this case,
yeah,
just from like a prosecutorial, if that's a word, standpoint, federally, like looking at things from a law court based on my limited knowledge from grad school in this realm, like feds don't pursue cases like this unless they're airtight, because like success rate for federal cases, especially in this realm
in prosecution, is
incredibly high, because they don't pursue things like this, they don't act on things like this, they don't move on things like this until everything is air freaking tight. And so if, and we don't know this for sure, if federal agents, groups are involved,
which it should be that way, because having all of this going down and it not being anything, and you're affecting children that way, which it sucks that it has to be that way, but you're either traumatizing them or you're saving them and traumatizing them at the same time. So at least have the one good outcome.
Like, it's bad. This is not a typical show out for a government agency like DCFS that's completely understaffed and overwhelmed. Like, this is not a typical response. And so there's something here that to me reads way more complex than just Jodi and Ruby being fucked up to the kids. Like, it feels way more complex to me than that. And that's just my own personal view on the situation and my kind of personal experience in this field adjacent to this. But who knows? They also could have showed up and showed out, because this is a popular vlogger family and people are crazy.
Yeah.
So, you know, and it could also be contextual based on the call. Like, did they get a call saying something god awful was happening, and so they had to show up and show out? And so there is a lot of variables here, but this is awful. And I wish, it's bittersweet, because I wish this wasn't a situation that anybody had to be in to begin with. But we're here now, and it seems that something is going to happen. And for a situation like this, if we're talking about like Child Protective Services, if both parents are unable, like detained or in any way unable to take care of their children in a case like this, especially if both parents are in jail, priority number one, contrary to like the popular view of DCFS agencies, is they don't plop them into foster care immediately. Kinship placement is priority number one for a case like this. And in most cases, we're always going to start kinship first. We're always going to look for family members that are able to take care of these children. And obviously there's complexities around who that can be and what that can look like. And I imagine that is going to be even more complex given the situation with Ruby's family. So not sure how that will play out, but these kids aren't going to get plopped into foster care. Who they end up with might be a little bit more complex, but they're, in cases like these, they will want to prioritize the kinship placement, and they're always going to prioritize the safety of the children.
Yeah.
So if certain people would not potentially be safe people, given their relation to Ruby, if that's something they're comfortable with, like there's a lot of nuances here, but these kids aren't going to be put in a foster care system and never seen again. That would be pretty outrageous given the circumstances and what we know.
Yeah.
So, and that's only if, like, if Kevin is free and clear of all this and doesn't get charged with anything and isn't involved in this at all, then there would be no need with that. DCFS would still be involved and would still need to finish this investigation. But if Kevin was not found at fault or liable in any of this, then nothing would change. Like, the kids would remain in his custody because he and Ruby aren't divorced. And I know that because I looked recently. So that's kind of the gist. It's a long-winded gist of what's happening right now. We wanted to make this on the shorter side, but this is such a complex thing that it's hard to. And we're not going to do much editing of this because we're trying to get this out to you ASAP. So that, because my Instagram DMs are overflowing, our Discord is alerting us that there's like fraudulent activity going on.
Strange activity.
Because we have so many people. And so that's why we wanted to do this, was get this information out there and absolutely shame the hell out of these two.
Yep.
This is not like a who gets to it and talks about it first situation. I want every goddamn YouTuber on earth talking about this. Like, they deserve all the horrible publicity that's going to come from this.
You can delete your channel, but you can't hide.
No. And that is the interesting thing about this too, is their channel went dark just recently.
Just a couple weeks ago.
Just recently. And I haven't checked to see what they've been posting lately. I've been off Reddit for a bit, so this is like all happening very fast and all at once.
It's just the usual bullshit. I looked a couple days ago.
And it's their typical distortion nonsense.
Stupidity.
Okay, yeah. So that's what we know for right now. By the time you're watching this, if there's updates, I'll try to put them in the comments. We probably will just have to go ahead and refilm if something wild happens. But
yeah,
know that we have a plethora of resources that we've already made about 8 Passengers for you. There is the 8 Passenger Snark subreddit that you can access that has a lot of information too. There are some other great creators who have covered 8 Passengers who have really in-depth videos. Like Swoop is one of the ones that I generally will tend to recommend just because of her level of research that she does in all of these videos. And so there's plenty to watch. Obviously, we want you to watch ours because we try to keep humor in it as much as possible.
This one wasn't so funny.
This one was not so funny. This is horrifying. So comment below, questions below. Take care of yourself. Don't let yourself get sucked up in the media cycle for too long. Take breaks. There's a very noticeable link that I see as a mental health professional when people are consuming an insane amount of media or social media. And so you don't have to stop watching altogether, but moderate because your brain needs a break. And it's really easy to get sucked into this stuff waiting for updates and things. And so pace yourself. And this is really heavy stuff. So especially if you've got any kind of trauma in your background or you don't talk to your parent because they're abusive and neglectful, like myself, this can be a really triggering thing. So if it brings up those kinds of things for you, don't be afraid to take a step back, do some self-care, call your therapist, pull out your coping skills. Because this is heavy stuff. This is really heavy. And all I can hope at this point is that these poor, already traumatized kids will be able to get into a more stable environment so that they can do some healing around this.
Yeah.
Because Ruby was bad before Jodi. I don't even want to know what Ruby is after Jodi.
Yeah, especially because we don't hear about it.
We don't.
She was so willing to share all of those awful things with the world on YouTube. And as soon as she stopped posting, it's...
When Jodi entered the picture, it became... Like, the only word that I can think of is sinister.
Yeah.
Like, Jodi took the worst things about Ruby and amplified them to like 1,000 and gave her an echo chamber and encouraged her to do all these other horrible shit that she probably wouldn't have even thought of on her own. But if Jodi's being charged with it too, then Jodi's inflicting that damage too. And so these kids are not only getting it from Ruby, they're getting it from her. And that's just... Ugh. As a human as a social worker and a therapist who works with people with trauma, who works with children who have been traumatized and have experienced awful things, like, this is just, the effects of this are going to be so long lasting. And it's horrifying that this woman was ever in a freaking position. God cursed the internet. That the internet was probably how her and Jodi connected in the first place.
Probably.
I think Jodi only cared about her because she had the big YouTube following and the big Instagram that she then took advantage of.
Absolutely. Yeah, because she
hacked her account.
She didn't hack it.
She didn't hack it, but she took it.
She took it over. Yeah. She hijacked it.
That's what I meant.
There you go.
Yeah.
I figured.
I don't have words. Take care of yourselves. Take care of other people. Know when to take a step back if you need to. We have a really supportive, amazing community that we've created out of our channel. And it's very evident in many places, like our Discord, that we just have a really strong and supportive community of a lot of nice, supportive people who have endured a lot of really hard things also. And let me give the caveat before, because I can just see this playing out in my mind. Yes, we are ex-Mormons, and yes, we are critical about the Mormon church. However, this kind of behavior is not typical Mormon behavior. This behavior...
This is beyond the pale.
This is beyond the pale. Like, there is nothing in Mormonism that you could use to justify this more than you could use the Bible or any other regular Christian religion. Does religious, like, fanaticism and scrupulosity and those things play a role in this? I certainly think so. Could this be... I've said from day fucking one, parallels between these two and Lori Vallow and Chad Daybell, like, sinister shit. And when you enter that age of religious extremism and you start going down that path, it's slippery and you get sucked in real fast. And so I think these two were definitely on a path, but hopefully this was enough to stop the train from going any further. And I'm not saying that they were capable of doing the things that Lori and Chad did, but this is the kind of extremism that comes out of these kinds of things. And Ruby's oldest daughter has talked about how she struggled with religious OCD, scrupulosity, and I think part of that was Ruby before Jodi also, but I'm sure Jodi certainly didn't help. But that's my massive caveat, is there is nothing in this that is Mormonism. This is not how Mormons generally parent. This is not how they operate. This is not condoned. Child abuse in its written state within the church they're very much against it.
Yep.
How that plays out in other areas is another topic for another day. But just know that this is not typical. I will defend Mormons here. This is not typical Mormon behavior.
Yeah.
So there's my caveat for that. But anywho, I think that about covers everything that we have so far. Wasn't super organized. Nothing's super organized right now. Like, the goddamn news articles can't even get it right. So it's coming hot off the presses here. And if you complain about how it's disorganized, I don't want to hear it. Because we're filming this at midnight.
You heard it here first. I'm going to cut Jordan off now because I will fall asleep at the computer if I don't. Baloney.
This is Baloney. Oh, he's giving you guys love. He knows that everyone needs it.
He just knows that what is in front of your face is important. That's why he bumps his head into it.
That's true.
Anyhow, links to our normal stuff down in the description. Yeah, our regulars already know. If you'd like to know, you can go to some of our other stuff, but we love you, and we will stay in touch.